Hello once again. Thank you for joining me and hope you're enjoying a wonderful summer. Here with us on the show today, we have Sergeant First Class Ryan Sanderson.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And the Sergeant is here to share and shed light from the Army point of view to a civilian. That's me and you. And introduce yourself, Sergeant.
My name is Sergeant First Class Ryan Sanderson with the United States Army. Currently serving in Quincy, Massachusetts as a center commander for Army and Army Reserve recruiting.
Excellent. And what made you decide to join the Army?
Born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada, and blue-collar family. Grew up quite a normal childhood and went through school, graduated high school. After high school, like most young men or women, I wanted to give college a try. Went to community college for a year. Things didn't quite work out for me. Worked different odd-end jobs up until the age of 21, and I just decided there was something else out there. So I went and saw my local Army recruiter, and after speaking with him, decided that's the route I wanted to go. Thought I would do it for 4 years and kind of weigh my options at that point in time. Here I am 15 years later, talking to you.
That's wonderful. That means you did enjoy your life in the Army.
Absolutely. I wasn't always in Army recruiting. I used to be in field artillery, so I used to use computer systems and maps and graphs and send firing data to long-range rockets and missiles. After I did that for 7, almost 8 years, I ventured into Army recruiting, where I was pretty good at it and enjoyed being in the civilian community. It's an opportunity not to be on an Army installation, but to be amongst civilians and be a liaison, if you will, between the civilian community and the United States Army.
Oh, that's...
And I've been doing it for the last 8 years, and I rather enjoy it. My assignment here in Quincy is almost up. I'll be venturing off to Fort Knox, Kentucky next.
We'll miss you, Sergeant.
Well, I've enjoyed my time here in New England and particularly Massachusetts, myself and my family. But Uncle Sam says it's time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, in the Army, what are the experience that you gathered that you know between the liaison between the civilian and the Army? You know the difference?
Sure. The Army, when you're in the Army, it's a big family. Mm-hmm. It's your brothers and sisters in arms, and everybody's got is very goal oriented. You're given missions in the Army, and it's your job as a soldier to carry out that mission. Whether it's fixing a vehicle or painting a building or finding young men and women to join the Army. It's all a mission. So everybody's got their own mission in the Army to accomplish one mission. So knowing that, it's a little different from civilians where everybody's kind of doing their own thing almost, where
right.
When you're in the Army, everybody's very mission oriented. A lot of the values the Army has, we have what's called the 7 Army values, which are loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage.
Right.
A lot of these values, most parents are already instilling in their sons and daughters growing up, and all the Army does is kind of take that and kind of
enforces
it and continues to reinstate it and make sure that you understand as a soldier that those are the values that we live by, day in and day out, and not to forget those values. And those soldiers that stand by them tend to thrive, not just in the Army, but when they become a civilian again.
So when they walk in through your doors, let's say they walk in through like you did when you were 21, what is it that you're looking in them?
The Army, like any military service, has pre-qualifications for all men and women. Right now, the age for the Army and the Army Reserves is 17 to 34 years old. You have to pass a medical physical examination, pretty similar to a sports physical. You have to meet height and weight standards. You have to be educated, meaning a high school diploma, generally. A high school diploma or better. You have to be of good moral standing, meaning if you've been in trouble with the law but for certain violations may potentially disqualify you. So we're looking for men and women to fill the ranks and once again become leaders in the United States Army. You know, you're groomed from day one of basic training to become a leader. Anybody can follow, not everybody can lead.
True.
So the Army from day one starts to groom men and women to be leaders, because I'm not always going to be in the Army. Eventually I'm going to retire from the Army, so you have to continue to bring soldiers up to fill my rank, and then the rank above me and the rank above that, so on and so forth. So we try to groom young men and women and make them leaders.
Excellent. And when they're so young, do they follow the discipline? Do they follow the commitment?
Well, obviously, like anything, some people do better in certain environments than others. Everybody's given the same training, whether you're 17, 18 going through basic training or 27, 28 going through basic training. It's the same basic training. It's the same values. So some people, some soldiers adapt better to Army life than others, but I'm a firm believer if you're a young man or woman and you come into the Army and you're open-minded and you have the willingness and the want to succeed and to live by the Army values and to be a soldier, then you will do well.
Oh, fabulous. So when you wake up in the morning, and since you've got all this training, all your life, so do you follow that at your own family, your own home? Is that what your way of life is?
My way of life is very similar to anybody else's. Once again, I'm in the civilian community. I'm not on an Army base. I live in, a community right here in Massachusetts, in a home like anybody else. I have a wife and a young son, 2.5 years old, and we live like anybody else. If I didn't get out of my car wearing a uniform every single day, my neighbors would probably never know I was in the Army, except maybe for the haircut. So sometimes my wife says, when I get home, sometimes I'm not able to turn it off, if you will. I'm still that sergeant rather than Ryan Sanderson. But for the most part, my I get up in the morning time like anybody else, and I go to the gym, and after that I grab my cup of coffee and I head to the office. Once again, in recruiting, it's a little bit different than to be on an Army installation. But at the same time, I still follow those same morals, those same values, right? I still make my bed every morning when I wake up, and try and eat at least 3 square meals a day, and follow the laws of the civilian community, So once again, I'm a soldier, but at the same time, I'm like anybody else.
That's the thing, is we want to know the human side of a soldier.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a husband.
Yeah.
I'm a father. I'm a student. I'm a friend. I do housework. I work in an office. I was just in a bowling league. I golf on the weekends.
Oh, wow.
So I do things that
anyone
else does. Absolutely.
That's so nice. Now, how do you maintain the physique even though if you're not on the field? Is it a requirement?
Absolutely. Very good question. So as long as you are enlisted, as long as you're a soldier in the United States Army, Army Reserves, National Guard, doesn't matter. You have to always maintain height and weight standards and be able to maintain your physical fitness. It's a semi-annual requirement to take and pass the Army's physical fitness test. So it's an absolute requirement. And it doesn't matter if you live on an Army base and don't live on an Army base. It doesn't matter if you're a full-time soldier like myself or a part-time soldier like a reservist or National Guard. And I hate to call them part-time soldiers, but
right.
They're in the civilian community also. But so they're soldiers.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
reserves.
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. But you have to maintain the standards.
You
though.
do.
Yes.
And what's the commitment and the discipline? Because you know why I'm asking these questions is a girl or a boy, an individual 18 to 21, nowadays in the civilian community, they do drugs, they do alcohol, or they're not disciplined. Now, how do you keep the Army, like one who walks into the Army, that yes, you don't do drugs, you don't do alcohol? What is it? What do you enforce?
All the above. Once again, being a soldier is just like being a civilian. When you come into the Army, you're expected to maintain the standards, maintain your discipline. We're giving constant training in reference to drinking and driving and drug abuse and domestic violence, sexual harassment. I mean, we are, unlike the civilian community, we're giving that we're given that training at least once a quarter.
Really? We did not know that. Domestic violence?
Absolutely. Just the signs that, you know, how to walk away, how to kind of the warning signs, you know, just how to not fall into those circumstances, if you will.
Yes.
Every weekend in the Army, you're given what we call a safety briefing, where at the end of the day, on whatever the last day of that week is going into a weekend, the troops gather around their commander or their senior enlisted person, and they give a safety briefing. Hey, be careful this weekend, you know, have what we call a battle buddy, which is your
buddy,
partner in arms, just like it sounds. Your partner in arms, your battle buddy. Hey, I'm going to go rock climbing this weekend. You're going with me. You know, it's just someone to look out for you as you look out for them. That's what we call a battle buddy. So, you know, make sure that so-and-so, you know, doesn't have a drink and then get behind the wheel. Make sure so-and-so doesn't get into an altercation with somebody. Just make sure so-and-so just has someone to talk to if they need to. So those safety briefings are giving every weekend. So with those safety briefings and with people enforcing that and with someone always looking out for each other, it tends to limit those type of incidents in the Army.
Because, you know, we have so much domestic violence, we have drugs and alcohol, so had no knowledge that the Army was training and educating its force.
Absolutely. It's very in the, you know, it's in the limelight, you know, in all the military service, in the civilian community, and it's something that the Army is working very hard to mitigate and to hopefully get rid of in its entirety.
Absolutely. Now, how is your family? Like, you know, what does your wife expect from you, or any other soldier? Any story that you know? Or she follows your discipline?
Sure. I mean, my wife she's everything. She holds the house together.
Yes.
I mean, you know, when you're a soldier, you have to do what you need to do when you need to do it. I mean, sometimes you may not come home for days, weeks. Heck, soldiers, you know, get deployed for, you know, a year on end, and your significant other maintains the house, the home, the bills, the children.
Wow.
Now in recruiting, you know, I normally have the opportunity to come home every night, but long hours, she still maintains everything, you know, mows the grass if it needs to be mowed, and takes care of my son, and, you know, so she expects from me, like any other wife, a husband to be there when she needs him, and to be supportive, and just to be a partner.
Compassion, passion. But you put in so well that she is an anchor. She's holding the house.
Absolutely.
So when we are referring to your wife, we are referring to all Army wives.
I would hope so.
Yes.
I would hope so.
Yes.
You know, not just Army wives, spouses, significant others.
Significant others. Because she is, or he is like, you know, the one who is holding, I mean, she has a lot of responsibilities, really, and she has to be strong enough, or he has to be strong.
And she has to put up with me at the same time, which is not always easy. Yeah, it's, I mean, anyone that's got children, and, you know, and takes care of a house.
It's not easy.
You know, once again, she does 90% of the work. Oh. You know, I do 10% of the work.
Yes.
You know, so when you talk about soldiers and civilians, as you can see, I'm no different. You know, it helps when you have that supportive partner. You know,
absolutely.
Whether you're a soldier or not a soldier.
Yes.
So she most definitely maintains the home, and oh, by the way, she works full time too.
Sergeant is so compassionate. Would you have imagined this from a soldier?
You know, you got to be well-rounded
In the Army.
Yeah, you know, in definitely in the Army. You know, it helps.
You bring the softer side, you know, because
Well,
as a civilian, you see, you know, this soldier, you're a recruiting commander, but imagine someone in the field, you just see him this way. But when you talk, you realize, no, you are a wonderful person with the same, like a civilian, you know, maybe even better, to be honest with you.
Well, I just, I enjoy what I do. I'm lucky enough to enjoy what I do.
Yes.
I really am. I get the opportunity now, especially as I'm in recruiting, just like I'm doing with you and speaking, you know, to the
Viewers.
viewers.
At home. Yeah.
I get the opportunity to tell my Army story, talk about where I'm from, why I joined, what I'm getting out of the Army, and once again, it goes down. You're going to get out of what you put into it. It's like anything else in life. It's like anything else in life. You come into the Army, you want to succeed, and you want to do well, and you put forth the effort, it's going to happen.
And it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But what are you expecting from the Army in your life? You're happy, you said, and which is true. I can see it. But what do you expect from the Army?
I don't expect anything from the Army. I don't. I don't expect anything from the Army.
Army has given you everything that has made you today.
I wouldn't be here talking to you
Yes.
or wearing this uniform if, once again, I didn't believe in the Army and I wasn't doing well in the Army and I didn't want to continue to do well, because I've got 15 years in the Army now.
Wow.
I've had multiple opportunities to get out upon completion of a contract. But because I've done, you know, I've been able to travel in the Army, see different cultures, meet different people, get educated, get leadership training, and I've been able to do all that because of the Army. So I expect nothing from the Army, just for it to be there for people after me.
You're so proud.
Well,
you're
you know,
really proud.
Most soldiers are proud.
Yes.
You just completing basic training gives a soldier a sense of self-worth, and you really accomplish things that you may not have known you were able to accomplish, whether it was mental or physical. It brings that out in someone, and when you see what you're capable of doing, you appreciate the environment that lets you understand that, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
And the environment would be the Army.
The Army.
Sure.
Does the Army support spouses? Just because it's also a stressful work in their lives, apart from supporting its soldiers, what's their, yes, maybe you can shed some light.
A soldier's family will always be taken care of.
Of course.
That's another great thing that the Army and the military as a whole, they will always make sure a family is taken care of, whether it's, you know, for medical, housing, food, they will always be taken care of. That's
Wow.
one thing as a soldier, you know that if you have to leave, whether it's for days, weeks, months, or a year, your family's going to be taken care of. There's
Excellent.
programs in place to always make sure that your spouse, they have, you know, what family readiness groups and support groups, and there's pieces put in place to always make sure that that spouse is taken care of, and the children.
What a peace of mind.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, once again, I've been in for 15 years, so I don't know what it was like 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But the Army, obviously, we just had our 239th birthday, the United States Army.
Congratulations.
And like any organization, you get better, and you continue to grow and learn. And
You've learned a lot.
Yeah.
You've learned a lot.
You know, I definitely have, and I believe, you know, these programs have been put in place to make sure that the soldier is taken care of and the family's taken care of.
You said you went to different cultures, visited different places. Which are the places would you share?
Well, I've just in the United States, I did all my training at Force, Oklahoma, so I spent almost a year there. Then I went to North Carolina for just over 4 years. Then from there, I got stationed in Germany, where I was in Germany for 2.5 years. A year of that I spent deployed to Iraq, so really I spent about 18, 19 months in Germany itself. When I was stationed in Germany, we'd go to some, different countries, Italy, Spain,
Yeah.
Switzerland, Austria. Had the opportunity to travel to those countries and whether it was for a long weekend or just a day or two, and kind of just meet the locals and ski, snowboard, hang out, just get out there and be adventurous. And because I was stationed in a place like that, it gave me the opportunity, like it does a lot of
To your yes.
soldiers, to get out there and see the world. The world's a big place, as I'm sure you know.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot to see, and I've had the opportunity.
So traveling, as you know, in the Army exposes you to different cultures, different understanding, and it's so nice to hear from a soldier what his experience was. If you can, would you share a nice story that you really, it's touching to my viewers all around the world?
A touching story.
You've already touched our hearts, for sure. Maybe where you were
Give me a...
either in United States, or maybe where you were in Germany, or when you were traveling, maybe you met someone who needed help.
I met a lot of...
or in Iraq, maybe, when you were there as an...
yeah, I got... not to get... Iraq was, I had 2 deployments to Iraq. First one was 6 months. The second one was 12 months. I did get to see good things over there. Got to see a school being opened.
Oh, that's great.
Soldiers handing out pencils and
Oh, that's so
and notepads, on the first day of school for the children.
Were the children scared to see you, or
no? They I think they kind of were maybe used to seeing soldiers at that point,
Okay.
But to see that opportunity,
Yes.
was really neat, and like you said, touching, if you will. I mean, I've got a lot of personal type of touching stories, and just the opportunity to meet some of the people I've met along the way, that I probably would never have been associated with had it not been for the Army. Here's a good story. I originally came to Massachusetts to be part of the Brockton, Massachusetts recruiting station. And upon finding out I was coming here, I was getting my things ready for the packing company to come pack up the house, and I ran across a piece of yellow paper that was from when I was in basic training back in 1999. And on that piece of paper was a gentleman's name and address whom I was pretty close with through training. But we had lost touch. He went one direction, I went another direction. Come to find out, he was, and I remember him being from Massachusetts, he was actually from Brockton, Massachusetts.
Wow.
And on that paper was his parents' address.
Oh.
So when I got stationed here, I knew he was on one of the departments, and I won't say which
Yes.
one, but he was on one of the departments, and I ran into someone else in that department and asked if he knew that individual, and he said yes. And I said, please let him know that Ryan Sanderson's in town. And the very next day, he stopped in my office,
Oh.
and we obviously rekindled our friendship since, and our families hang out, and so the Army is a big, but it's a small place at the same time.
Yes.
So someone whom I went to training with, over 10 years ago, hadn't spoke with in probably, 8, 9, 10 years. We just hit it off as if we'd never drifted apart. And that's part of the relationships that you build when you're in, the Army. And I'll say the military as a whole, but obviously I can speak for the Army because I'm in the Army. That is really neat.
That's wonderful. I mean, what a nice experience. I felt like a family talking to Sergeant Ryan Sanderson. I'm sure you did too. And when he shared the story, it was like one little family. You don't feel that the Army is like a huge, somewhere something, or we have all these thoughts in our mind, who are they? Or, we don't talk to them. But here we have. And I thank you once again for joining me and Sergeant Anderson, First Class Ryan Anderson. I think I got that right.
Sergeant First Class Ryan Sanderson.
My salute to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Thank you, everybody.
Pleasure to you too. See you next time again.
Good night.
Bye-bye.